Hey, financial accounting students, I'm sure you're delighted to know that you have an essay coming up on internal controls, and I wanted to give you a quick rundown of what that essay prompt is and essentially what I'm looking for. So I've made a quick PowerPoint for you to run through that. So our internal controls essay, here's the prompt. The essay question is, why would a merchandising company need good internal controls related to its inventory? Define and describe three of the key elements of an internal control system that would apply to inventory and explain how each of them does relate to inventory, giving examples. So that's the essay question. I want you to thoughtfully prepare for this, and I want you to write an excellent essay. I'm going to give you a few key points here. First of all, I've underlined and bolded a handful of phrases here. I am not looking for general reasons why any and all companies need internal controls in general. I'm looking for specific reasons why a merchandising company, a company that buys inventory and sells inventory, needs good internal controls related specifically to their inventory. And then I want you to thoughtfully pick three internal controls from your textbook and explain how those relate to inventory. So let's walk through that. So first, to prepare, I would recommend that you read and study Chapter 6, paying close attention to the 9 internal controls that are listed on pages 319, 320. There's 9 internal controls there. Limitations is not one of those internal controls. It's not the secret 10th internal control down at the bottom of page 320. Limitations is essentially a disclaimer that even a great system of internal controls cannot prevent all theft, fraud, and errors. So please do not choose limitations as one of your 3 internal controls that you choose to write about. So study those 9 internal controls. Then I want you to think of 2 reasons why a merchandising company needs good internal controls specifically related to their inventory. And again, I'm emphasizing, I'm not looking for general reasons why all companies need internal controls. You need to be very specific to merchandising and inventory. So when we think of those reasons, I'm going to refer you back to Chapter 5. I'm going to give you a hint right now. In Chapter 5, we talked about the idea that inventory and COGS, cost of goods sold, are often the most significant, meaning the most voluminous accounts on the books of a merchandising company, therefore making them attractive targets for fraud. That sounds like a pretty good reason why a merchandising company needs good internal controls for inventory. So there's one reason. I gave you a free one. Can you come up with a second reason why we need internal controls for inventory? Here's a hint. Maybe you can develop this idea a bit further. How does a merchandising company make money? They buy inventory and they sell inventory. If they don't have good controls for their inventory, how is it that they're going to make money? So maybe you can develop and refine that idea a bit better into being a second reason, or you can come up with a second reason all on your own. But I'm going to be looking for 2 reasons, and they both need to be specific to inventory. So don't tell me that all companies need internal controls to prevent theft and fraud and ensure accurate financial records. That's true, but it doesn't answer the question. So again, it needs to be specific to merchandising and inventory. So then you're going to choose 3 of those 9 internal controls. And I really encourage you to pick the ones that you can most easily relate to an inventory example. None of them are wrong. You can choose any 3 of the 9. It doesn't matter to me, but there are definitely going to be ones that are more directly connected to inventory. So as you choose your 3, you need to be able to come up with examples. And for each of those 3, you want to be able to define and describe that internal control, and then develop a short example demonstrating how that internal control could be used in relation to inventory. So let me give you some help. Here's how I would start my essay. I would start it with all companies need good internal controls, but specifically, merchandising companies need internal controls for inventory because of blah, 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 blah. Also because of blah, 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 blah. So that's where you would put in your 2 reasons. Then you're going to move into the 3 internal controls that you've selected. So let's try this. Tell me if I get a good grade. Merchandising companies might want to use the internal control of segregation of duties, which means that employees are required to take vacation. Am I going to do well on my essay? No, that's not the right definition. So if I want to talk about segregation of duties, I should say a merchandising company might want to use the internal control segregation of duties, which means that the work of one employee acts as a check on the work of another employee. And then I would need to give an example of how that could be used for inventory. In the textbook, it gives an example for segregation of duties that has to do with a movie theater and one person selling the tickets to the customers and then somebody else inside taking those tickets from the customers. Is that an okay example to use? No. Why not? Because it doesn't involve inventory. It's a fine example of segregation of duties, but it doesn't involve inventory, and therefore you would not be given credit for that. So you need to come up with an example that specifically relates to inventory. In terms of how your essay will be scored, 2 points for essentially what's going to serve as your introduction paragraph. I want you to cite 2 reasons for merchandising companies needing internal controls specific to their inventory. And those 2 reasons are going to serve as your intro paragraph. Then you're going to write 3 paragraphs, 1 for each internal control. And when I say paragraphs, they can be short and sweet. Longer is not better. And with each of those paragraphs, you're going to just define and describe the internal control, and then you're going to give an inventory-related example. And I want to emphasize, writing more doesn't make you more correct. Short and sweet and concise is fine by me. Demonstrate that you understand the internal controls and how they can be used for inventory, but we don't need pages of writing to prove that. A short paragraph about each of 3 internal controls is quite sufficient. So an intro paragraph citing 2 reasons, and then a short paragraph times 3 for each of the 3 internal controls. All of that adds up to 8 points. And to be clear, those 8 points are part of your test number 2 score. Now, I hope you get 8 points. I want you to get 8 points. And that will be added onto your test number 2 score. This essay used to be part of test number 2, but it seemed that it was just too much and too long for students to do all in one sitting. So I have you do the essay separate from test number 2, but it's all still part of the test. So for that reason, it's important that you properly prepare for the essay and write a thoughtful essay. I am not grading you on spelling and punctuation and grammar and sentence structuring. However, I would love if you could write at the college level and give me your best writing. But I'm not going to judge you on your spelling and grammar. Please just do your best, and I would like to hope that it will be at college level. A common question I get is, do I need to have a closing paragraph? No, it's not required. I'm not giving you points for it. But if you're the type of writer that it makes you crazy not to conclude your essay, then by all means, don't let me stop you from writing a proper conclusion. But as you can see here, I'm giving you 2 points for the intro paragraph where you're going to answer why do merchandising companies need internal controls for inventory. And then I'm going to give you 2 points for each of 3 internal controls where you define, describe, and give an inventory example. There are no points awarded for a concluding paragraph. There's no points for spelling, punctuation, grammar, any of that. I'm grading simply on content, exactly as I've laid out here. So I hope that helps you in terms of preparing for your essay and gives you plenty of time to thoughtfully plan your essay and choose those internal controls. Please feel free to contact me or email me if you need any help with this assignment. Good luck, you guys.